Welcome back for the second episode of the series. Today we'll be looking at Charge the Enemy, in the universe name Operation Eastern Wind, the second level of the game. It's also the second mission for the VR mode and is extremely impressive what they did with the technology. A quick presentation, if I may, to demonstrate. The whole mission is top quality, but that beginning, immersing you in the chaos of taking off while under fire, mwah, chef's kiss. A gun spewing out bullets on your right, and the plane they just shot down crashing to your left. Two bombers performing extremely ugly belly landings, barely missing as you continue to taxi towards the runway at a painfully slow pace. I won't be covering that mission besides the mentioned. I strongly recommend you watch a video about it. The mission name is Operation Gator Panic. This will probably be the most I ever talk about VR in the VR campaign. Sorry VR fans, I'm not buying a PlayStation and a PlayStation VR headset to play free missions with an underbaked story. I'm getting back to the real game that's only slightly unfinished.
Do you read?
Editing note. You can now play the VR campaign missions on PC with the pre-campaign mod. I'll link the Nexus mods page at the top of the description. This video will still not be covering the VR levels like I said earlier. I also won't be giving instructions on how to set it up. The entire mod is also still a work in progress, so it might be unpolished somewhat. But back to the video. We're starting off in free flight over the lovely little Schofield Plateau and the ponds, forest, farms, and small settlements adorning it. Before I forget, so about the towns. There are actually 4 or 5 of them across the map. For simplicity's sakes, we're going to be looking at one due west of the airbase and just call it Volkel. Got lots of old-fashioned single-family housing, townhouses, apartments, and warehouses tucked away. I like to imagine this big white building here as a community college for the surrounding area, with how much it resembles the one I attend. It's probably just a generic office building though, as all the building models are reused thoroughly. Atop this hill is what I'm assuming to be a hotel of sorts, judging by the large awning and foyer. There's also this church. I think it's there's probably a specific term for this building. If you know, please say in the comments. I even spotted this model merging with the hotel one, and the texture seemed out of bounds. Escaping to the countryside reveals that they modeled hay bales for the game, and probably just this single map. Their silly detail involves the trees. If you clip under the map, you can see that their trunks protrude below the surface. This whole place is covered in farms supported by numerous ponds and a canal spanning the map. I swear the only way this place could be more Dutch is by adding windmills and tulip fields. Kinda just filling dead air here, but there are specific benchmarks when categorizing settlements. Obviously that's just a farmhouse, but down the road you have a collection of houses. This would be called a hamlet as there's likely less than 100 people here. Continuing along would be a village, as there's probably 100 to 1,000 people living there. The population for towns varies even greater, with populations of 1 to 100k. Anything larger would be a city. That also includes its own categories, which aren't relevant to this countryside. Couldn't really think of a transition into this, but there are power lines. You can crash into the transmission towers, but not the cables. Kind of ironic considering that electrical wires are a bigger threat to aircraft than the poles they're attached to. Both times this location is used, you're told to follow them. The regular game has you follow them towards the airfield, and VR has you take off from the airfield, follow them to the substation under attack. They still seem to be in the middle of repair despite the 5-year time gap in-game between the VR and regular campaign. Like, come on, there's still a massive breach into perimeter fencing. Makes the checkpoint a bit pointless. At last, the airbase. So remember earlier when I called that town Volkel? That was in reference to the airfield in-game being based on a real location. Vliegbasis Volkel. If for some reason you don't know Dutch, it translates as Volkel Airbase. It's pretty similar to the one in Fort Grays, just more green. The on-site basing is certainly a lot more organized. In contrast, the helipad seems to just be a marked out portion of grass. Most of the facilities are targets in the mission, so how about I finally get on with it and start the operation? Quick fun fact. The diagram at the end of the mission briefings is fully modeled, including the topography. Our entire mission entails us making a drive straight for the airbase, so I'll just structure this part around what pops up first. So this fuck-ass radar vehicle. The wiki doesn't list what it is, reasonable enough as it's pretty generic, but I thought I could figure it out. My initial conclusion was either it's a 50N6A multifunction mobile tracking radar, part of the Russian S-350 air defense system, or the 9-2N6 mobile radar system, NATO call sign Gravestone. Until I checked the wheels in this goddamn ring mount, which neither of these things has. The website I used to help after the wiki didn't have any exact matches, just the aforementioned lookalikes, so I checked Wikipedia. The few articles that do exist on this massive list don't have pictures to cross-reference, so I decided that was enough and tacked on this explainer. No more of this vehicle, please. Much better. Now it's definitely a gravestone. I stumbled on this completely by accident, but if you pause the game mid-explosion, you get a clear demonstration that the explosion animation is just a texture and will always face the viewer. Next up is the oh-so-specifically labeled anti-airgun. The AA label is placed on multiple different vehicles, meaning we'll be returning to these fellows multiple times. Thanks to the wiki for doing the work on this one. With how generic it looks, I honestly thought it was just made up for the game. The M167 Vulcan air defense system is unusual in the fact that it's a US designed weapon, and most of Aruge's equipment is Soviet made or Soviet adjacent, not counting aircraft. Hovering over the substation is an AH-64 Apache attack helicopter. For whatever reason, this specific unit is programmed to immediately lift off at the start of the mission, instead of when the player approaches, like the group of 4 further along. Sporting Desert Gamma, it'll fire air-to-ground missiles at you, which are somehow a more effective means of defense against you than the anti-aircraft guns. Speaking of AA guns, here's a new one already. I honestly believe this one would appear later, yet here it is with matching Desert Gamma. It's a ZSU-23-4 Shilka self-propelled anti-aircraft gun, SPAG for short. It's got a different radar than the original. Maybe a real-world variant uses an array instead of a dish. Hiding behind this house is a BTR-90, a Russian-made APC-IV Frankenstein using the body plan of a BTR armored personnel carrier and the turret of a BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicle. Capable of holding 10 people inside, I presume it's here to help invading Eurasian forces with occupation duties. So MiG-21 spawned, but we looked at them last time, so they'll be ignored. I guess it's worth mentioning they're part of Skull Squadron, a recurring formation which shows up in other missions, though they're not really your rivals. Those guys show up later. When all the radar vehicles are destroyed, an enemy line will play about how some Arusian operators are struggling with the newer weapons system, finding that the instructions are written in a language they're unable to read. Blowing up at the airfield, there's targetable air structure. There are these radar towers. I could search for their origin, but I really don't feel like it. Same for the pairs of gas tanks. Most people who have played the game already know this, but blowing one up destroys any nearby target. Truck. Technically I showed this already, but here's the watchtower model that was used in Mission 1. What a commanding view. This is what it looks like inside and how it looks when you destroy it. For what's currently occupying the runway, that'd be 3 C-17 Glowmaster transport planes, with one already taking off. There are the usual pilots in there, and you can't see what cargo they're carrying. We do know what the second plane is carrying. This can be demonstrated by destroying it. Matter of fact, let's take the pilot's point of view. Here's what the atomization looks like from the outside. So what the hell was that? That was a secondary explosion where the cargo of Helios missiles detonated before they reached their destination. Helios missiles are one of the many superweapons of Strange Rail, and we'll meet one of their intended launch platforms next episode. And here's the control tower. Much better. A beautiful view of the runway. They should really be thanking you. And look, some suspicious trucks are trundling along. They're quite detailed, even having a logo on their grills. Peeking inside the trailers shows what they're really about, drone deployment. Say on a repeat playthrough, you notice where they are before they can deploy drones. Any attempt to destroy them is futile as they're coded to be invincible. You're just going to have to let the cutscene play. Air show completed, it's time to break out the camera. The MQ-99s are based on a real drone prototype, the EADS Barracuda, jointly developed by Spain and Germany. It's not a one-to-one copy, as it looks like the F-35's optical targeting system has been slapped onto its chin. Two quick things before I wrap this all up. First is the ace, much easier to pronounce Joe Barker. A major in the Uruguayan Air Force, part of the 21st Reconnaissance Squadron of the 148th Air Division, flying a MiG-29. He's near guaranteed to spawn, as all you need to do is destroy the air control tower before the drones are launched. As for the skin, it's a reference to the aerobatics test pilots from the Gromov Flight Institute, located inside Russia. To me, the blue and yellow just makes me think of it as an inverse version of the MiG-29's most iconic role, Big Jet from the Little Einsteins. The second thing is that the mission teaches you about icing mechanics. Namely, if you fly into clouds, your missiles become screwy, you start to ice up, and it becomes harder to maneuver. In case you never used first-person mode in the cloud before, this is what it looks like seeing your cockpit becoming encased in ice. Okay, somehow there's even less cut content in this mission than before. Again, it's just tutorials, no extra glazing for you though. Your AWACS warns you about a big one on the airfield. No indication what that is, probably referring to the second transport and its cargo, but nothing concrete. I wasn't intending to make an addendum for this, but I want to explain why this video, to me at least, is pretty half-baked. To put it plainly, I did not like editing it. ADD paired with a loss of momentum and motivation made this take way longer than it should have. Just going to leave it at that and not have a bunch of excuses, reasons behind it all, so back to the video. Safely back at base, it's time for the debrief. Another video down, and the next mission should be a cakewalk to make. Ideally, it'll be out soon after this one, but no promises. First, I'm going to give a reminder on watching a recording of Operation Gator Panic, at least the intro. It's awesome, and I don't want the amount of effort to make it go unappreciated. Secondly is just a brief explanation for why this wasn't out sooner rather than later. I've been gone from home for a week, meaning no editing or recording. Good news is that I could still write, and I've already finished the script for Mission 3 and a very long portion of Mission 4. Thirdly, consider giving the video a like, maybe share it, and perhaps even subscribe to my channel so I know how much people want to see them. The last and most important thing is to have a great rest of your day.